Hey, I'm James from Soapstone Barbecue, and ever since I picked up my Weber Summit Kamado, the #1 question that I've had in my inbox outside of when's your 6-month review coming due, that's soon, so make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell turned on, is James, what accessories from Kamado Joe fit in the Summit? Accessories carry a hefty price tag sometimes, and so rather than go out and trial and error, buy something that's very expensive only to find out if it doesn't fit, that's what I aim to cover today. Kamado Joe offers more accessories than any other Kamado manufacturer in terms of getting more out of their Kamado grill. So this is a natural point of curiosity, is some of these cool accessories that are available on one brand's product available or cross-compatible with another brand. And this always isn't true. Earlier this year, I went out and bought Big Green Egg's pizza wedge insert as well as their rotisserie and tested that on my original, my first Classic 3 that I bought, as well as a neighbor's large Big Green Egg. And while the rotisserie units were somewhat interchangeable between the two grill manufacturers, things like the DoJoe just 100% are not compatible. There was no way to make that work, particularly with the new hinge design. So why does this matter? Well, to me, accessories are a big part of the purchase decision. Now, if you already own a Weber Summit Kamado or any Kamado, I don't think switching brands just for accessories makes a bunch of sense. But if you are in the market and looking for a Kamado, this is something that personally was heavy on my scorecard in terms of evaluation criteria. Well, why? This is a bit of my bias here, but if you can only have one grill, which really is all you need despite everything you might be able to see going on in the background, owning a single grill is what all normal people do. That's what I started with, and what my barbecue support therapy group is trying to remind me of, that you just don't need so many grills. It makes sense for YouTube, but not for the average person. And that's why I happen to love the Kamado form factor. I've used this analogy before, like the sport utility vehicle. Sport utility is not a pickup truck, it's not a fuel efficient car, and it's not a sports car, but they can do a little bit of all those things pretty darn well. And this is similar to my experience with a Kamado style grill. You can do pizza, cook a steak, brisket, ribs, anything that you name it. You can throw almost anything that you see in any recipe that you want to try into a Kamado grill and do a pretty remarkable job on it. And so for me, the accessories are an important part of that decision because they help unlock even more potential from the grill that you own. I love the idea of one grill to rule them all and being able to do absolutely everything that you can throw at it. So today I'm going through my mailbag and answering the most frequent questions in terms of which Kamado Joe accessories fit the Weber Summit Kamado. Let's start with the DoJoe, the pizza accessory. Okay, let's get started with the DoJoe accessory. This is the one that stumped the Big Green Egg, as I mentioned earlier, didn't fit. And while we're talking about accessories and good use of money, this one I can't say was a good use of money. I purchased my S&S basket when I first got my Weber Summit. Not only is there an S&S Kamado that completely uses this design where the charcoal is banked to one side and you cook on an indirect side, many other videos, some owners showed it, and I just haven't been happy with the results of it. You tend to get a little bit of a stale smoke pattern in terms of the fire coming up, can't quite exit right away out of our chimney cap, comes down, touches our food, and you can even see it in the chicken where you're getting a bit of a dark color from the dirty smoke. And while it might make it a little bit easier with the new design deflector plate to be able to access our fire, I can't say this was worth the $150. But let me grab the DoJoe. Let's drop this in, see if it fits. Oh, very close, but I'm wondering, since the hinge here is a little, well, let me try and line it up a little bit more to the center point. Since the hinge has some play, let me see if I pull. Oh, there we go. I think I was able to slide it just under the lip of the Kamado. Let's get off the tripod and do a quick walk around. Just make sure that we don't have any large gaps, but quickly looking top down, this looks like a promising start. So we look good here at the back. This is the problem area again on the Big Green Egg where the new hinge design didn't allow it to touch. But I think we have a good seal from back to front. Again, once I pulled the lid on, it is secure. It's not going anywhere. Continue to check around. Other side should be much of the same. And I'm going to call that confirmed. DoJoe fits the Weber Summit. Let's move on to the JoeTisserie. Remove our DoJoe. Drop in our JoeTisserie. Let's see if this closes. So there looks to be a little bit of a gap at the back, but because of the inner ring on the Summit, I actually think that is sealing okay. With the weight of the dome, it presses down really nice at the front, so that's not going to cause any problems. But let me open the dome here and see if we can't see a little bit more about what's going on in the back. So as I mentioned, because there's this inner lip on the Summit Kamado, the ring of the JoeTisserie is sitting right down there. So I actually think that's giving us a bit of the air seal that we need, even though at the back it looks like a gap. I don't think that's going to cause any problems. So I think we're 2 for 2. I'm going to say the JoeTisserie also fits. So now that we've confirmed some of the larger exterior accessories, let's move on to some of the interior accessories, things like the Soapstone, or new this year, the Carbon Steel accessories from Kamado Joe. This happens to be the griddle. Don't think I need to remove this basket, but might as well do that while we're here, since, as I mentioned, it doesn't add much to the experience, so this is going to be for sale. The Summit and the Big Joe are both 24 inches, so let's see if this fits. Well, that fits really nice. Let's see if it closes. Yeah, no issue with that closing. That actually fits fantastic in the Summit. It's nice and secure. The grease drip tray here at the front, also similar to the Big Joe, lines up in a spot where it doesn't look like that's causing any problems. That's just going to go down to the front of our fire basket. And since there's no gasket material right on the outside, we've got a high heat mesh gasket on the top that adheres to a metal base. I don't see any problems with the griddle accessories. So if there's one I think it's going to give us trouble, it is the SloRoller, just based off of the height. So there is nothing to set the base of our SloRoller in. So it's just sort of a slightly smaller circle. It's just rocking in the base, but let's see if I add the rest, there gets a little bit more tension that might actually hold that. 1 second. Install the top, our cooking grids, and I will be shocked if this fits. Yeah, that's as far as we're getting. Yeah, that's just not fitting. In muscle cars, there's a saying, there's no replacement for displacement, and in grills, sometimes interior dimensions, there's only so much we can do. The SloRoller pushes our grid up higher, and we are a good 5 to 6 inches above what traditionally would be the felt or gasket line. Plus, because this isn't sitting on anything, it's not like this is stable. This is just rocking around, and I wouldn't want to use that. So our first confirmed casualty is the SloRoller. But while we have the divide and conquer rack here, I've already shown that, but in case you missed it, let me show you the divide and conquer rack on its own. So this is the Big Joe Series 1, Series 2 divide and conquer rack. The Series 3 grills are 4 inches taller, and they come with a 3rd level versus these 2 levels. So if you ever see 2 level, that's a Series 1, Series 2. If you see 3 levels, that is Series 3. And so with just a slight little push, this is now sitting right down on the rings. Let's show you the fitment here. So I forgot from my test, there are, you can't see them, maybe on the back you can see these little bolts line up with the divide and conquer rack. So I have to go on a 45-degree angle, which outside of driving my OCD crazy isn't going to do anything to impact our cooking. Just looks funny. And with a little finessing, we are able to fit right in here. So I've actually done a complete cook on the rack. So even under some heat, this continued to open and close, just ever rubbing slightly. So this isn't an amazing fit. So I wouldn't say this is 100% 2 thumbs up, but it does work. So why might you consider the divide and conquer rack? And again, this is quite an expensive accessory if you're buying it on its own. It was really only for the deflector option. So this allows me to use the Kamado Joe half moon deflectors, which has increased the height that I get from the fire below. So I could either fit more charcoal if I want, more smoking wood, and or have more distance from my heat deflector, radiating heat directly from the fire. Likewise, I also have more clearance from the deflector to the food. So this is pushing it up into our cook chamber about 4 inches past where the stock setup is. So that's about the only advantage of the divide and conquer rack setup, let alone you get the normal sort of multi-zone cooking things where you could have an indirect side, a direct side. So for example, we could go with something like that where we had our coals on this side and we could do a little bit of searing our steaks and then move them over to this indirect side, something that I do in my Kamados all the time. So for that utility, it's absolutely worth it. I just wouldn't, if you were in the market, look or intentionally plan on buying a Summit plus this, because this puts the cost significantly above, I believe, even a Big Green Egg or a Kamado Joe when you price them out with the racks included. But if you have one and you can find a good deal on this rack system for a Series 1, Series 2 Big Joe, or even someone selling a used one, this does open up just a little bit more versatility, which I always love in a Kamado. While we have this setup in place, let me grab the Soapstone. So as you'd expect, if the Divide and Conquer rack system fits, so does the Soapstone, which fits right in the Divide and Conquer rack system. I also grabbed the cast iron half moon. And again, since this is Kamado Joe accessory on a Kamado Joe accessory, as you'd expect, there's no issue fitting either the Big Joe cast iron half moon or the Big Joe Soapstone. The only issue we have is a little bit of play in the hinge in order to get our dome to close properly when we're opening and closing. So there we have it. Every major Kamado Joe accessory outside of the SloRoller fits in the Weber Summit Kamado. So that is a good thing, especially since the official Summit accessories from Weber is a little bit light. Last time I checked, it's 2 or 3 accessories. So there's not something like a pizza oven insert, or not something like the JoeTisserie, which admittedly is one of my all-time favorite accessories on any Kamado. This just opens up a different flavor profile. I think any accessory should really enrich the experience, and you notice that it's doing something different that you can't do. In part why I'm a little bit critical of the S&S basket is this just didn't provide any incremental benefit in terms of my cooking experience. But products like the JoeTisserie, the Soapstone have been number 1, number 2 on my favorite accessories list for the last couple years, and I see no reason that they can't do the same great job inside of a Weber Summit. And new this year is the Carbon Steel Griddle, along with the other carbon steel accessories, all of which, because they're smaller in size, will also fit in the Weber Summit Kamado. That's it for today. Thanks so much for all the emails and questions. It's my pleasure to be able to answer questions like that. If I was like you and had just a Weber Summit, I'd want to know that these things absolutely fit or don't fit before forking over the hundreds of dollars that some of these products can cost. So thanks so much for reaching out and asking, hey James, do some of these Kamado Joe accessories fit in the Weber Summit EX6? And this is the Gen 2, by the way, EX6 from Weber. That's it for today though. I'm James from Smoking Dad Barbecue signing off. And remember, don't be afraid to fire it up.